Hi everyone, this is Adenike Adekoya from 9 Point Academy, and today I'll be talking about how to use contrast, which is the linking word, in IELTS writing task 2. When it comes to contrast, it is the linking word you use to present and link a different information to a previously given one, and it could be used within sentences and paragraphs. Now there are some words or phrases we need to note. One is this, linking words, then present and link different information, then within sentences and paragraphs. Now when you say linking words, you have two different information, then there should be a link when you're writing your sentences. Now when you're using it to present and link your information, what you do is to choose the appropriate contrast in order to present a differing opinion or information. Now a differing opinion means information that is different from the one you've given earlier, especially in cases of advantages and disadvantages. You can't introduce your disadvantages and still use additions. You need to be able to choose from these sets of words to present a different information. Now within sentences and paragraphs, within sentences you can use your contrast as well as starting a paragraph, but you need to know that when you're using these contrasts within sentences, you would have to use a comma before and after it. But if you're using it to start your sentence or you're using it to start the paragraph, you need to use a comma before you complete the rest of the sentence. Now these are examples of contrast. You have although, however, but, yet, on the contrary, nevertheless, nonetheless, irrespective, by contrast, apart from, whereas, despite, alternatively, conversely, and meanwhile. Vast majority of writers just tend to stick with although, however, but without exploring other options. You don't need to keep repeating these words. You need to use others when you're writing. Then note that when you're writing, don't just use any of them without understanding the context that you need to use them. Now these are samples. You have the first one. Recently, the use of consumer goods such as refrigerators and washing machine have been on the increase. These developments, in spite of its benefits, such as stress easing and time saving, has its drawbacks. Now, the use of contrast here is saying, in spite of, you're saying that the development, that is the use of consumer goods, has its advantages and disadvantages. But because you need to say that, okay, this development has its advantages, which is benefits, and it has drawbacks. Now we need to use a contrast because we've given the benefits, which is stress easing and time saving. Then you say this development, in spite of, that is irrespective or however, then you use a contrast. Note that when I wrote in spite of, I did not use a comma immediately after it. It's not needed here because this is, you can't put the comma here, it wouldn't make sense, except if you are using it to start the sentence. Now the second sentence here is, the adoptees then went through the same stages as typical American-born children, although the rate at which they acquired language was faster. Now the choice of contrast rather is although. Now what you have here from the beginning is the adoptees then went through the same stages, that is, they went through the same stages as the American born children, which is the first information. Now, because you need to add a different information to that, you then need to introduce the contrast in order to make complete sense. Now, if you don't use the appropriate linking word there, you might eventually lose the meaning. That's the essence of using transitions that are appropriate. Now, the choice of although here shows that, oh, okay, they went through the same stages, but the rate at which they acquired the language was faster. It shows the difference between the learning stages of both the adoptees and the typical American-born children. Now, there's one other thing you need to note when you are writing. Okay, when you're writing and you need to use the contrast in between. As I mentioned earlier, you need to use a comma to differentiate the contrast. Okay. However, I'm going to be rewriting this sentence. However, this trend, this is a substitute of, or a synonym of development rather. This trend has its benefits and drawbacks. This is a rephrasal. Then you could write this trend as its benefits. However, it comes with some downsides. Now, the downside there is a synonym of drawback, which is a synonym of disadvantages. Now, these are different ways you can rewrite this sentence. Now, note that the way I used however here when I was starting the sentence is different from the way it was used in the second sentence. Now, however started this sentence with a comma. Yeah, it shows there is a pause before you continue. Now, this trend has its benefits. However, now this part here has a comma before however and a comma after however. It shows that you can rewrite this sentence the way you want, but it will still show that you are using the contrast appropriately. Like I said, when you use your contrast or linking words, generally, when you use them before your sentence, that is when you're starting the sentence, you need to use a comma immediately after it. But if it is within the sentence, you need to use a comma before and after it. This would help you when you're writing, and it would help the reader to easily understand what was being written. This definitely would earn you more mark, as well as help you achieve a cohesive write-up. That will be the end of today's presentation. Thank you for listening. Then you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on our social media handles. Bye for now.